All right, welcome into Ethan Skolnick starting 9 here on a Monday, actually on a holiday. Typically we go Tuesday, Wednesday, but we're changing it up a little bit this week. You never know where you might find us. Thanks for finding the 5 Reasons YouTube channel. Make sure you hit that like and subscribe button. You hit subscribe, you get all of our episodes. For instance, you would know that right now while we're doing this, we're also airing the next episode of the Hamarican Boys with Timmy and Brian, and Sean Rochester is on that one. Okay, so if you want to get more Heat content that's a little bit different, you can do that. And of course, everything else that's on our channel. We'll be back for Before Floor on Friday, and Post Up 5R. The Heat don't play until Friday. We are going to talk Heat today with Tony Schwartz. Before we do, we'll tell you about one of the great sponsors of the 5 Reasons Sports Network, and that's Signs Broward of Fort Lauderdale. Signs Broward of Fort Lauderdale, based, where do you know? Fort Lauderdale. You can reach him at 954-791-8685, 954-791-8685. Literally, I live very close to Las Olas, so I walk down that street, and I've seen all these signs, and I found out who does all these signs. They do. Why? Because they do a great job from beginning to end. They're a one-stop shop. Piazza, all the other restaurants on Las Olas, not all of them, but most of them, they use Signs Broward Fort Lauderdale. So give them a call at 954-791-8685. They also handle sign repair. So if you run a business and your sign's not doing so well, we know there's not a lot of rain this week, but it's coming. You may need someone to take a look at it. They will do that for you as well. So reach out to Signs Broward Fort Lauderdale, scroll through their gallery, go to their YouTube, not their YouTube page. They don't have one of those, but they do have an Instagram page also at Signs Broward Fort Lauderdale, and they show all of the work that they do there. Mention 5 Reasons and you will get a discount. So go to Signs Broward Fort Lauderdale, an official sponsor of the 5 Reasons YouTube channel. All right, let's get to it. Basketball's not back yet. We've got a few days, but yesterday, of course, was more it was more of an entertainment exercise, more of a commemoration exercise. I got a chance finally. I was podcasting at the time. Good morning, Orlando. I got a chance to watch back to the 75th anniversary celebration. And look, there are some things that the NBA overdoes and doesn't do particularly well. Pretty much all of All-Star Saturday Night at this point, which is a mess. I mean, I've covered probably 11 or 12 All-Star games in person. I was there. This is how old I am. I was there for the Vince Carter dunk contest in Oakland, okay, which was the best, and it's not going to be topped. But I was also there for both Gordon Levine contests. I was there for the Gordon DJJ contest. I mean, I've been in a lot of dunk contests. And one of the things that you realize about All-Star Saturday Night is it's different on television. Like in the arena, like I got tickets. I had someone with me. I got them easy for people. Like All-Star Saturday Night in the city itself doesn't sell big. Hey, Abel, how are you? And I will answer that question for sure. We're going to get to that. It's not, I don't know. It's not a big deal in the city itself. More people are concerned about where they're going to go for the Saturday night parties, honestly, than they are about getting to All-Star Saturday Night. And the Rising Stars game, which they tweaked and was a little better this year on Friday, like nobody goes to that. It's a made-for-TV event. And, of course, it was not good on television this year either. And I think they've hit the point where, yeah, once every 5 years they're going to get a good dunk contest, and the other 4 are just going to be gimmicks and all the rest. There's nothing else for them to do. I mean, I've been pitching for a one-on-one forever. I'm not the only one. I mean, some players may back out of that too because they don't want to get embarrassed. They don't want to get hurt. But I think that if you had enough of the right guys do it, it would be worth it. And so, to me, All-Star Saturday Night was a total dud this year. And I think most people agree. Now, yesterday was better. No defense played early. We knew that. But the fourth quarter, the way that they've set up the format was competitive for sure. And, you can see in that space the skill level of these guys, which is what you're looking for. I mean, Eric was significantly overmatched. I mean, if you look at that starting 5 that Team LeBron had at the end of the game is pretty much the All-NBA team, other than maybe LeBron's not going to be on it this year, although he certainly could be. But, without Durant on the other side, I mean, what was it? They were against, LaMelo Ball and Zach LaVine. They're good players, but, I mean, they're not that. I mean, Curry, LeBron, DeRozan with the season that he's having, Giannis. I mean, that's not a fair fight. Embiid on the other side for sure, but, again, it's not really a centers kind of game. So, look, Spo lost, but that's fine. And we knew that Jimmy wasn't going to play very much because he hates the thing. I mean, I'm not telling you that. Everybody tells you that. His body language tells you that. He wanted Hero to go. I didn't report this at the time because I didn't want to get into hot water like I did last year when I reported correctly, although Jimmy denied it publicly, that Jimmy's people had basically told the league, if you don't take Bam, I'm not going. Okay, that was accurate. All right. Now he countered it and all the rest of this. I can tell you that this year, if he'd had a little bit more of an injury going into the thing, then he was going to tell the league, take Tyler instead. Okay. But it didn't end up coming to pass. Tyler didn't go. Chris Paul went, even though I have no idea what that was about. And he should have backed out of the thing rather than go in to get the 1 assist and perhaps injure himself even further. He was going to be out 6 to 8 weeks. And Tyler would have enjoyed that. Tyler would have gotten into it. Jimmy is not into it. It's just it has nothing to do with Jimmy Butler. Like, he's not into pomp. He's not into circumstance. He's not into any of that. Yes, he does a Michelob Light commercial, but or Michelob Ultra. But it's just not Jimmy. Like, Jimmy's gonna be Jimmy. He beats to his own drum. He doesn't get into all of this stuff. Yes, he respects the history of the game and all that, but it's not the same. He's not out there for show. Look, I covered LeBron. Okay, I covered Dwayne. Dwayne was into all that stuff. You can see that last night. And I give credit to Dwayne for something I give credit to Iverson for. The two of them always, and it was great to see the two of them together because I was there for Dwayne's career debut in Philadelphia against Iverson. It was a little bit of a diminished Iverson at that point, but he wasn't totally diminished, not like later. And Dwayne was extremely nervous before that because it was his opener, of his entire career, but also was against Allen Iverson, wearing the same number, playing the same position basically. And to think of the two of them now sitting there in a booth together, it was kind of cool. It was kind of cool because the two of them, I will say this about AI, whatever you thought of AI's efficiency or some of the attitude or all that, Allen Iverson gives respect to the young players. Guys like Shaq and Barkley should learn something from that, but they won't. But you can tell, like, Dwayne and Iverson respect, try to build up the young guys. And that was just to me, that was a cool segment. Halftime was a cool segment for sure. With a 75. There is no league that does it like this. The NFL can't compete with this. There are too many players. The players' careers don't last long enough. In the NBA, like the stars, the lineage between those players, it's like none other. MLB's was broken by steroids and the way that the game has kind of gone sideways in the past few years. But NBA is still there. The young guys, again, the older guys don't always give deference to the young guys, but the young guys, just talking to them as they come up in the league, guys like, again, Kobe, unfortunately, obviously, would have been a huge part of this yesterday. But guys like Kobe and Jordan and Iverson and others, like the young players, like they model their games after those players, and they get generally awed when they meet those players. I've been in so many of those rooms, and so that was very cool. So I thought the NBA did pretty much everything wrong on Saturday. What the hell was that thing with Steph Curry and his wife? But Sunday, I thought they did it absolutely right. But now we get to the serious business, okay? 25 games left for most teams, including the Miami Heat. The season is not halfway over. It's pretty much 2/3 of the way over, a little bit more than 2/3 of the way over. I mean, this is a final stretch, okay? And what we're going to talk to Tony Schwartz about is what has to happen here. What has to be tweaked? Now, you should check out an episode of 5 on the Floor that I did last night with Alex and Brady, where we got into our top 5 players in the East who are threats to the Heat. So you can pick more than one on a team. And we went through our top 5, and I actually reordered mine at the end, and it's kind of a mess. But you should check it out because I think it's an interesting debate. Because the Heat, and this gets back to last night, the Heat have a lot of really good players. They don't have the best player, okay? I love Jimmy, but you cannot make an argument he's having a better season than Embiid. You cannot make an argument that he can go nuclear to quite the degree that Durant can. I know about the finals 2 years ago, but KD is another animal here when he's healthy. And you cannot argue, okay? And again, I love Jimmy, but you cannot argue that he's at a higher level than Giannis, okay? So just those 3. Now, you can make arguments about the Chicago players. You can make arguments about Kyrie because you don't know if he's going to be in or he's going to be out. You can certainly make an argument about Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown, but you cannot make an argument about those 3, not now. Okay? So it's an interesting episode because we kind of get through that. And so the Heat's collective, thank you, Abel. The Heat's collective is going to have to be better than some of these teams' superstars, right? And certainly they can do that. They did it to Giannis 2 years ago, and they may be better equipped. PJ Tucker's on their side now. Now, again, he wasn't on the other side last time, but he certainly was last year. Okay. And so Miami has options to throw at all those different players. But I'm going to keep coming back to this, and we'll talk to Tony about this specifically. And I said this last night. I was on Sports Extra and said the same thing. This team is potentially, depending on matchup, a second-round exit unless one thing happens. Okay, but first, health, yes, I'm assuming all that, right? They need health, okay? They got to get their top 4 guys playing together, which has almost never happened this year, right? But the difference between them being a second-round exit and being a finals team is 3 letters, and it's BAM. And you cannot convince me otherwise, okay? We pretty much know what we're going to get from Jimmy. I say that even as he had that awful playoff series last year, but I really don't think that's going to repeat itself. That he and the rest of the team were emotionally, physically exhausted, and I think they knew they had no chance to go further. When they lost that game 1 against Milwaukee, where they gave it everything they had, and they lost in overtime, that was it. They're done, okay? That was the wall. I think you know what you're going to get from Jimmy. I think we know pretty much what we're going to get from Kyle Lowry. We've seen it in the playoffs. Again, early career Kyle in the playoffs was not great. Later, it got better. This is the kind of team he plays very well with in the postseason. I think he's going to be just fine. In fact, I think he's going to score more than he has in the regular season. Tyler, yeah, there's going to be some variance for Tyler. There's no question about it. But if you felt good about him 2 years ago, you should feel good about him now, right? Better. He's a more skilled player now. He's a more confident player now, even with the confidence. Some of the confidence 2 years ago was him like, oh, wow, I'm doing this. The confidence now is I've done it. It's different. So I think that you're going to get a pretty good Tyler Hero. Maybe not every game. It's Bam. Okay? Now, defensively, no questions. He's the best defensive player in the league. And again, with that, you cannot convince me otherwise. But that's not enough. That's not enough when the minutes are going up for everybody, for your stars, right? If he's going against Embiid, okay? If the Heat need another option down the stretch because, say, Jimmy is being smothered by Giannis or Durant or others with length, Bam has to be the Bam that we saw in kind of the last 8 to 10 games before the break. It's got to be that Bam. It took him a couple games to get back into it, coming back from the injury, and they're like, whoa. And it's like I said at the time, that 7 of 21 in a win was perfect. Because he was aggressive as hell. He had those 21 shots through 3 quarters. He was aggressive as hell. And yet, he wasn't efficient, and they won anyway. To me, that gave him the license to say, okay, I can do this. It's not going to hurt the team. If they get that Bam, they can go to the finals. The matchups to me don't matter in that case. They don't matter. Because, look, jockeying for seeding here in the last 25 games is going to be weird because there are teams in spots that they're probably not going to be in later. Like this conference is so bunched up that you can't say, well, I want to get the 1 or the 2 because I want to avoid this team until the conference finals. Nobody's going to know that until like the last 3 days of the season. It's just about getting up as high as you can to get as many home games as possible because the team plays better at home, obviously. But that's it. It's not going to be like, well, you want to avoid Boston because their length gives you problems. You'd rather play, Toronto, their length gives you problems too. But you want to play, Atlanta, say, in the first round if they pop up a little bit. Or you want to avoid Brooklyn because you don't want a first-round matchup against Brooklyn. But again, do you really think the Nets are going to finish 8th? Probably not, right? So there's going to be no way to gauge that. And so there's going to have to me, it's just about getting yourself right, getting yourself healthy, getting as high a seed as you can, but not to avoid certain teams to get the home court. But it's going to be about unlocking Bam. That's the difference. I don't care who they play. I don't. If they get an aggressive Bam Adebayo with all the other pieces they have and how they can lock down defensively, they're the best team in the Eastern Conference, in my opinion. At least until Brook Lopez comes back and we see what that looks like. Both of those teams are better than Philadelphia and the Nets, by the way. All right, Manny, do we have Tony? I'm not sure if we have Tony. If we don't have Tony, I'll just keep going. And we do have Tony. All right, so we're going to bring on Tony. As we do that, I'm going to mention another of our sponsors here. It's getsolis.com, getsolis.com. Use the code 5RSN. This is great if you're an endurance athlete. So you're a runner, you're a tennis player, anything like that. You want to replace your electrolytes in a healthy way. You don't want to just pound all the Gatorade. Okay, try the sugar and all that stuff. And the sugar-free stuff tastes terrible. So just check this out. Okay, again, you come in these little packets. You go to getsalis.com. That's getsalis.com and replace your electrolytes naturally. They were here at the Broward Convention Center this week. Everybody was crowding their booth because they had a mini marathon here in Fort Lauderdale. It's a great product. Again, it's part of kind of our athletic type products that we have at the network. We have a bunch of them now, and we use the same code for all of them. It's 5RSN. It's the number 5RSN, and that's what they look like. And it gives you immune support. But more importantly, it'll help you finish the race. Okay, that's the whole thing. You want to finish the race, right? You don't want to go to the mini marathon, train all this time, and I can't do this anymore. Getsalis.com. Use the code 5RSN and get yourself 10% off. All right, let's bring on Tony Schwartz. You can find him at Tony Schwartz NBA. He also happens to be one of the hosts of Pace the Space at halftime here, which we will bring back on Friday, and other topics to that end. Thank you, Tony. Appreciate you joining.
Yeah, of course. It's probably the earliest I woke up without having coffee, so we're gonna try and.
I am not a coffee drinker. I know that's strange for people because I've had a lot of late nights in my life. And so you would think, but I can't drink it. Literally, this, and my daughter's gonna be upset at me, Tony, because this is hers. These are hers. The brisk iced tea.
Ethan.
She's addicted to them. I've rated it. She's not here today, so it's okay. She won't know. I can replace it. But Tony, let's get to it. First, I want to answer one question that came in on the super chat, and we do answer all super chat questions. When will Victor Oladipo get back? I have been saying roughly about 1 to 2 weeks after the All-Star break, and I'm going to hold to it. So I think you'll start to see them integrate him, not for the first game, but I think they got a couple practices they're going to have, and I think you're going to see him on the floor. Again, they're going to get him to do the 5-on-5 with Sioux Falls, but everything is on track. And I think it's been delayed a little bit, not by his setbacks, because I've heard he hasn't had any, but by the fact that others have played so well in that role that they haven't had to push it. So I feel like, that things have gone according to plan, maybe a little bit later than we thought before the season, but not for a negative reason. But Tony, I want to get to this because I mentioned this before. If I were to say what is the single most important thing for the Heat down the stretch? Is it seed? Is it opponent? We're going to take health out of the equation because I think that's a gimme. Is it seed? Is it opponent? Or is it something for one particular player?
I love listening to your soliloquy about Bam because it showed me how stark difference, how differently we look at the game, right? You're finding narrative inside of the structure of how to find victories when I just look at a stat, right? Mm-hmm. This team is 30th in pace. They're 4th in free throw percentage, but they're 22nd in free throw attempts and 21st in defensive rebounding.
Okay.
I don't think it's a player. I think in order for us to win, and 7th in offensive rating, by the way, they talk all the time about how bad our half-court offense is. It's great when we play terrible teams. It looks really bad against the top 10 teams because they're longer and they're stronger. So this team doesn't have paths to victories in series until we can start rebounding the ball better and getting more free-throw attempts. And that might be through Bam. I think you're right. I think he plays a super crucial part in this, but attaching an artificial number on shot attempts, I don't know is what I'm looking for from him. I'm looking for dominance on the boards from him. We need to generate offense somewhere, but I think that in order for us to win a series, Bam has to be one of the most incredible rebounders we've seen since Chris Bosh snagging one out of the hands of defeat from the Spurs, right? That's what we're going to need in order to win series and find ways to generate more shots at the free throw line. Shooting covers up a lot of stuff for us, but it doesn't cover up that.
But let me ask you this, because that's an interesting point. Because you said the half-court offense looks really good against bad teams, but you're not gonna see those in the playoffs.
No,
right? So I mean, you're gonna, and we don't know exactly which teams you're gonna see because the East is such a jumbled mess. But it's a better looking jumbled mess than it's been in recent years. There's a quality. I wouldn't say a quality, but there's a decent team that's going to get nudged out of the play-in completely. Like I mean, there's not going to be something we're just going to go in a series. It's like, oh, that's the team that you definitely want. I think people would say Atlanta. Miami's had some struggles against Atlanta over the past couple of years. They did get to the conference finals last year. Okay, so they are capable of runs. So I'll get to this. Like, so how do you fix that? Okay, the rebounding, I get it, but how do you fix the half court offense and particularly the free throw rate against those good teams? Because those are the teams that you're going to be seeing. I mean, against the Nets, I'm sure their offense looks fine, but against Cleveland, against Toronto, against Philadelphia, which is capable of playing good defense, right? Against Milwaukee, we know their top 3 guys are elite type defenders. How do you fix that?
This is where stuff gets hard, right? Because I want to come on here and just rah and say we need to play harder. But the analysis is tough, and it's too easy to be lazy here. In truth, you need consistency in your rotations to start feeling better about guys moving off ball and dudes being able to find those guys moving off ball more subconsciously than consciously seeking them. Caleb's cuts and that right there has been a revelation for us, and we've been able to beat a lot of switching teams like the Bucks that way. So Caleb in the rotation consistently, Markieff Morris back into the rotation would really help us right now, really help us to solidify the rotational rebounding. What we saw when we had Bam and Omer playing and they were both grabbing a ton of rebounds, was easy paths to victories because we won the possession battles. Like I said, we're 30th in pace. We play extremely slow. We are old.
Do you know what's so funny about that?
Possessions.
Tony, I'm going to jump in on that because what's so funny about that is I'm glad you brought that up because I hadn't checked it in a while, and I got to throw that back at Alex and Greg and Brady on 5 on the floor because we always do this. They're going to play faster this year, and they're going to play faster.
They never do.
And I told all 3 of them they're going to be bottom 5 in pace. Okay, you can have all of the Kyle Lowry hit-ahead passes you want. Eric can talk about running. His teams don't run. I don't care how many times he does it. And it gets back to something that Eric told me about years ago. And he's like, all of these guys, because the big 3 guys were all bitching that they weren't running more. Okay. And so I brought that to him on the side. And he says, they all say they want to run until I tell them to run. And then they don't want to run anymore. And they want to slow it down. They have checked the pace numbers. And it's not just old Dwayne Wade that caused this. They're all low. All right. But you mentioned something else I want to get to here because you're mentioning inserting all these guys who haven't been playing lately, like Caleb's been out, okay?
Yeah.
Markieff, he's been out for three and a half months. And then we're having a conversation about Oladipo and all of these things that these guys add. But we know that their top 4 guys are going to play a ton of minutes in the playoffs, and they already don't have enough minutes for everybody.
I know.
So how do you make room for Caleb's cuts or for? You mentioned the free throw thing. Victor Oladipo might take care of some of that if he's the former Vic, right? Because that's rim pressure is something that he does. But where do the minutes come from? Because Caleb has been playing backup 4. So if you're going to play Morris, then Caleb's not playing backup 4. Caleb's got to play on the wing. How does that work?
Some of that's going to be rotation. I think Markieff and Caleb is very much like rotational matchup advantages and where you can find those when you play squads. But the rest of it, Ethan, I don't know. Coach has to be coach of the year. That's how that happens. He's just got to figure out how to do. You asked earlier, what do we need to start doing in order to progress to being, a really good team in the playoffs? And it's figuring that rotation out, figuring out where guys are going to get minutes and who's going to play in what situations. And I wish I had a better answer for you than I hope Spo's a freaking genius, but I just hope Spo's a freaking genius.
Well, I do think that as much as he wanted the time off this week, and I know he wanted it, he does get energized by these events. He is a historian of the game. Trust me.
Absolutely.
And he's interested in everything that goes on in the league. When I was the year I was gone, that I was covering the Cavs. Every time I came back, he would ask, "What's going on with the Cavs? What are they running?" He's interested in all this kind of stuff. He's always looking for new ideas. We know he took the coaches trip, a few years ago to talk to NFL coaches. He will get outside the box. I've got to think that he's plotted all of this on different sheets. Like, okay, if I use this guy, then I can't use this guy. I know that they give him the analytics on it. I'm just curious who's going to lose the minutes, because if you just look at performance over the past 3 to 4 weeks, you can make a case that Max has hit the wall a little bit. That he had one huge shooting game. If you take that game out, and it's like he hasn't shot the ball as well lately, and defensively, the warts have shown enough. But you can't really take Max out of the rotation because he replaces what Duncan does on nights that Duncan's not doing it. So he's not the guy. We mentioned Caleb has importance to them, right? In terms of the cuts and the defense and the versatility. And Gabe has been great with the exception of one game. So it's just I don't know how. To me, it's not an ego thing. I think all of these guys would accept it, Tony, but I don't know. I don't know how he looks and says, okay, I can pull this guy out and it's not going to have an effect. Strus would be the one, but
yeah,
if Duncan's bad, they need him.
I don't believe that. So
Okay.
Max does what Duncan does when Duncan doesn't do it, but what Duncan does doesn't affect us winning the ball game. It just affects how easy we win it. Like the way that they want to beat you, like I've said for a long freaking time, I'm probably people are tired of hearing me. They want to beat you at the free throw line, getting the rebounds, and then winning the possession battles because they're winning the turnover battles. When they can shoot, it makes that so much easier because if you start to have errors, and especially forced errors, that your path to victory becomes very clear. Duncan provides you a level of spacing and, shooting that you can go to, especially if you can start to bend the defense. But him hitting shots doesn't make the team win or lose games. It just makes it easier for them to cover up those mistakes. So I think that Max is out of the playoff rotation. I don't even think that's a factor in my mind. Caleb has to get minutes because he's such an effective slipper. And you'll play him in opposed to Morris in certain situations. But the rest of it, Ethan, I think you're spot on. It's difficult. There's a lot of it they have to figure out. Like, for instance, they love Gabe on Kyrie. I don't know if I do, but they do.
Yeah, they do.
So now we're talking about Gabe will probably get minutes in a net series. So what's going to happen with the rest of the rotation at that point?
But if Vic is available and healthy by the time that you get to a net series, I mean, because Vic's got long arms. Vic can. If people don't remember Vic when he was playing at a high level defensively, because even in his elite offensive year, the one where he took LeBron, to the distance pretty much by himself with Indiana, he slipped a little defensively. But prior to that, Vic, the way he moves his feet, again, I'm assuming health, but long arms, quickness, awareness. He can be a very, very dynamic one-on-one defender where as good as Gabe is, you might say, okay, we have someone now, right? So that could be in that series, you could see him moved out for Vic entirely, I think.
That's how I feel. Like,
okay.
I think when we talked about this earlier on 5 on the Floor, I told you that I feel like Victor Oladipo is just a straight upgrade button for Victor or for Gabe. Especially when it comes to creating around the rim, if he can apply rim pressure again. That's to me the missing component. Okay, it's all about Victor Oladipo, and I've been pretty steadfast on this. That guy comes back, he can hit a shot, and he can apply vertical rim pressure. It's over. It's over. If we have home court and we have a healthy Victor Oladipo that plays himself into a starting rotation, the Nets don't challenge us. Philly doesn't challenge us. You're just left with that one juggernaut in the East that I don't care what seed they are. I'm hearing some people fight me about this. The Bucks are the best team in the East right now, and they are terrifying. They're terrifying.
Yeah, I agree, but a little less terrifying with some things that have happened. PJ not there. Connaughton is out, although he'll be back, and the big thing is Brooke. I mean, so it's a question of these pieces. I know the Goran thing is going to come up. I still expect him to be a Buck. I think that's still the most likely scenario, and I think he will give them some juice now too. I will say though, what happened with Phoenix now is interesting. I can tell you that Goran doesn't have a problem with that city. I had many conversations with Goran about this. Doesn't have a problem with that city. He really didn't even have a problem with the owner, who everybody has a problem with. He had a problem with Ryan McDonough, who is not there anymore. And James Jones, I think, obviously James is familiar. I talked to James many times when he was up in Cleveland about the Dragic trade, because it happened around that time when JJ was there. He likes Dragic a lot. I would not be surprised at all if Phoenix makes a play for him. But I'll close with you here, Tony. We appreciate the time, and check out our sponsors, GetSalis.com, 10% off using the code 5RSN. PrizePicks.com, use the code 5, FIVE, our daily fantasy partner. Get your picks in this week. They got a whole bunch of second half stuff going on. And of course, Signs Broward, Fort Lauderdale. But you are basically saying, if I could give you one, let me throw all these out because I know you give me the stats. Bam's aggression, Oladipo's emergence, okay, Hero's consistency, Jimmy not shooting step back threes, or Kyle, or Kyle going, finals Kyle, okay, with Toronto. You can have one.
Oh, well, it's the finals Kyle one. I mean, that becomes like a Hall of Fame, guy on the floor right now, but I don't think that's happening. So I'm going to go, it's Victor for me. It's Victor. If Victor adds something to this lineup, I think we're a real player for that championship trophy. But man, you really tested me with Jimmy step back threes. I would love to not see any more of those.
Well, we saw a step back 2 yesterday that he made, and I'm thinking, Spo's got to be looking at that saying, why did that happen at all? All right, follow up at Tony Schwartz NBA. Also check out Pace and Space. We'll be back on Friday. Check out our great sponsors, GetSalise.com, PrizePicks.com, and of course, Signs Broward, Fort Lauderdale, and check out the new 5 on the floor and Bahama Rican Boys, which is up there right now on the YouTube channel. Sean gets it. You're on another show right now. Duncan,
you left out too. Now, if Spo makes the other team call the first time out in the third quarter, I mean, that's the simplest path to victory.
That's a given. Get out of here, Rochester. I got to go watch you on the other show. Have a good one, everybody.